Welcome to the Cameron James UK Pension Transfer channel. Today I'm going to be talking about why is it so hard to transfer a DB pension. My name is Dominic James Murray, CEO and founder here at Cameron James for nearly 10 years now, so I've got a lot of experience which I can share with you. Right, first off the bat, I would say the number one reason that defined benefit pension transfers are so hard is number one, because of regulation. Okay? As you all know, whether you've been living in a cave or whether you're very far into your DB research journey, if your cash equivalent transfer value is over £30,000, you must legally, by law, take regulated and authorised financial planning advice from a pension transfer specialist. So this is by law from basically how it works in the UK. Financial advisors don't make up these rules. This is put in place by the TPR, which is effectively the UK government's opinion on what should be happening for people looking to transfer out their DBs. Now, you've got to ask yourself, why is this regulation there? The regulation there is for a very good reason. Previously, a lot of people transferred out of DB pension schemes without realising the true value of what they were losing. If you go and Google British Steel scandal, I'm sure my team can put something on this page, you will see the mis-selling and scandals that happened at the British Steel DB scheme, and that was basically a watermark in the UK where people started to say, okay, this is getting crazy now. People are moving out of very, very valuable defined benefit schemes. It's one thing if they know what they're doing and they understand the value they're losing, the guaranteed benefits, the guaranteed income of their scheme. A lot of those people didn't really know what they were doing. With no disrespect to steel workers, a lot of them may not have necessarily understood the financial implications of their life, their family, their wife, their kids, of what they were doing. So that was a bit of a watershed moment in the UK. That's not anybody's fault. It's not financial advisors' fault. Well, it is actually some financial advisors. You could argue they're a bit unscrupulous, I should say, when dealing with clients. So number one is from a regulatory point of view, which then leads on to point number two. Because there's so much regulation involved in DB pension transfers, it makes the entire framework of DB pension transfers extremely complicated. The pension transfer specialists, those that have decided to remain in the market, the majority have dropped out of the market because it's so expensive to purchase the PI insurance to provide this advice. The ones that are left in the industry are few and far between. It's literally going like that in terms of availability. So anybody out there who says, oh, it's all a racket so people can make a load of money, go and set up a pension transfer specialist advice firm then. But you'll barely get permissions now from the FCA in the UK for new permissions for DB advice. You would have to show huge amounts of due diligence, huge amounts of experience, financial backing, system to be able to provide get new DB permissions advice in the UK. So it's created a very, very complicated system and structure where the pension transfer specialists have to be absolutely spot on and perfect with their reports. The seeding schemes in the UK that you're transferring away from, they are so scared of letting a transfer of a DB scheme go out to some unregulated SIT or whatever it might be. Now, of course, they are extremely strict with their due diligence, to the point, I would say, even if you were a moron and you were transferring, somebody called you in the middle of the night, a cold call, and they told you can have 97% returns if you sign up with them, and you're going to invest in some bamboo fund in Guatemala in an unregulated SIT, that just simply wouldn't get past the seeding scheme of your DB scheme in the UK. They are extremely strict with their due diligence because from their perspective, they're saying to themselves, right, if Jeff wants to transfer out his DB scheme, it's his right. He can do so, but we're going to make sure that XYZ trustee in the UK, we are not liable for if he goes and messes up his money. We've done thorough due diligence that it's an FCA regulated product or whatever he's moving to. The underlying portfolio is suitable for him. We do not want any blowback from the client coming back or one of their ambulance chasing lawyers coming back in 10 years' time and saying, oh, scheme in the UK, you shouldn't have let me transfer out. So number one, the regulation then creates the complexity of the situation. You then have the simple time and effort that has to go into it. So here at Cameron James, we work as part of a two-advisor model. We submit your letter of authority, request your cash equivalent transfer value, all of the scheme information. I always say, if you request a CETV from your scheme yourself and you say, right, I'm ready to get advice, no way. You will not be able to get advice because a cash equivalent transfer value alone is not enough information for the pension transfer specialist. Christ, we have like a 30 bullet point list that we send to the seeding schemes. We copy you in on these emails to the seeding schemes so you can see for yourself of all the information that we need to request before we can even get your case ready for the pension transfer specialist. And how it works here at Cameron James, take an example, 500,000 DB, as my team can put our cost section on the page, we have a 2% implementation and transfer charge here at Cameron James. plus the pension transfer specialist advice report, minimum £3,750 for a DB report. So it's £13,750 circa to transfer a £500,000 scheme. Depending upon your scheme, there can be slight nuances. That's a lot of money, but that has to cover a huge amount of work that needs to be done. If a client comes to us on the 1st of January and says, Dominic, I'd like to have a meeting, I'd like to consider getting DB advice from the pension transfer specialist, it might be 1 month before we get the client profile, LOAs and everything submitted, everything done, maybe less than that, a week or two if the client's on the ball. It can then take your seeding scheme 10 working days, 30 working days, 50 working days, 60 working days. I've even seen 70 working days before all the information has come back to us for the pension transfer specialist to crack on with their work. That is a lot of work. That's a lot of salaries we have to pay here at Cameron James in order just to obtain the information before you can even get your regulated and authorised advice report. Once the advice report has been written, you then have to submit all that paperwork, due diligence, or we have to submit on your behalf to your seeding scheme in the UK. So again, very, very expensive for everybody involved to be operating and providing advice or providing implementation and transfer of defined benefit schemes. Lastly, I would say it's hard because it's a big decision. People know it's a valuable asset and they don't want to mess it up. This then means that from your side, you're going to have to invest some time and effort. Not necessarily money at the beginning, but research, Googling online, reaching out to financial advisory firms, talking to them. Very few people just say, oh, I have a £500,000 DB, oh, I'll use this firm, crack on with it. Very, very few. The majority of clients that come through to us say, Dominic, you know what, I've been tracking you guys for 3, 6, 9, 12 months. I've finally decided I want to reach out to you now. I've actually reached out to a couple of other advisory firms. You guys are head and shoulders above the rest. I want to move ahead with you guys and get DB advice. So I think it's hard in a way for clients because it's a big decision. And obviously you're moving away from a guaranteed income from life, indexing, very good indexing if you're an active member, typically not quite so good indexing of the guaranteed income if you're a deferred member, of moving into the unknown, so to speak, or for example, a SIP, an FCA regulated self-invested personal pension. Now, the other thing that people worry about, which I guess is another point, is the performance. Because in your DB scheme, it's guaranteed. You can just sit at home and do nothing. You can go on holiday to Spain, you can go do whatever you want. Your pension income is guaranteed to grow. Whilst when you move to a non-guaranteed scheme, such as a SIP, you are giving up your safeguarded benefits, and as such, you are reliant upon market growth. Now, past performance is no guide to future performance. However, what we can say of a balanced portfolio, balanced adventurous or an adventurous portfolio, if it's well invested, globally diversified, which effectively, when I say globally diversified, that means a large weighting in the US. The US makes up 60-65% of the current stock market in the world, probably increased by that even as I say that figure. If you're underweight in the US, which many UK defined contribution pension schemes are, you're typically not going to have as good a growth rate as the world. We know the American market has provided close towards 10% return over the course of time. We're talking 10, 20, 40, 50, 60 years there. So, but there is always that element of risk for you in moving away from a guaranteed income to something which is dependent upon market returns. I hope it's been a useful video for you today, and if any of this resonates with you, get in touch below. We're not a scary bunch here at Cameron James. Have a chat, have a conversation, reach out on WhatsApp, reach out on Calendly, just begin a conversation. Starting a conversation with us costs absolutely nothing, but allows you to go one step further in your research journey of working out who do you think is a reputable bunch to help you with something that is quite hard in terms of doing a DB pension transfer. And as always, take care of the UK pension assets.